Good morning, everybody. Again, we're a small but mighty group today. Just from everyone's school closures and vacations during this time, but thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to examine our mentoring practices, network on living in 2 years, and then review some upcoming topics and development opportunities. So again, we'll review our desired mentoring outcomes, and we haven't visited these in a very long time, probably since July, to take a peek at those, share some best practices, and then review that mentor learning track. So today, we're going to be talking about, again, our desired outcomes. So on the screen, you will see our mentor team mission and vision. Go ahead and take a moment to read through that. And then raise your hand when you're done and we'll move on. All right. Okay. And so now I would like us to read through the desired outcomes of our mentoring program. So these are the colored boxes on the screen. Take a moment to read through those. All right, so I'm going to collect some information as to how you support your mentee with these desired outcomes. So in full transparency, the new principals just completed this last month in person at the service center. But before I share what they had to share, because there's so many great things, I want to get your perspective so that we can compare these perceptions. So in just a moment, Janelle is going to share, oops, that was a sneak peek. You did not see it. Mark, I saw you leaning in. I saw you leaning in. In just a moment, Janelle is going to share a Jamboard link with each of you. I would like you to randomly select your favorite number 1 through 7. Sorry if your favorite number is not one of those, but today is going to be. Start on one of those slides and then move through each slide and place a sticky note as to how you've supported your mentee this year with those outcomes. So we're going to take 5 minutes to do that. Are there any questions? All right, 5 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and hop into that Jamboard and then place your sticky notes on the Jamboard. Right, and that is time. So finish up your last thought. I thought we could take a peek at the Jamboard and just have somebody to share something that they feel like has been very valuable in their mentoring journey this year. So thinking about our first desired outcomes of sharing ideas and problem solving, I see that we have 4 examples there. Anybody want to unmute and share one of those and just elaborate a little bit more for us? Go ahead, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, talking with the 2 mentees I have, I think just providing realistic examples, things that I've gone through, and what we've come up with as a solution. We all kind of have similar problems, but them hearing that, yep, we had to go through it as well, either making that tough phone call to the service center or a parent or whatever it is, and scripting out some stuff helped, definitely helped them.
Love that. Thank you. Yes, just letting them know we're in the same boat, right? I've been there too. It's definitely helpful. Moving into improved confidence, we have 5 stickies there who would like to share something with us from that screen.
I can. I know that when we follow up, we always follow up from the major discussion that we had the previous meeting, asking them how did it go, what were some things that they would do differently if they had the opportunity, and what are some things that went really well. We really do celebrate those successes, which thus when you're celebrating your wins, it does build your confidence and your capacity when dealing with that type of situation. So always making sure that I'm following up, and that's on my agenda with my new principal to say, how are things going? How did this situation pan out? do you need any more support? And that really did help my new principal's confidence.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Well, I'll save that for later, but yes, we did hear your name pop up quite a few times, Sharvana. So yes, that improved confidence. Yes. And then opportunity to reflect or network. How is that going? Would like to share one of these with us. Sabrina, I might cold call you because I think your sticky is the orange. If you're with us. Or Jen, if you want to speak.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That was
Go
mine.
ahead. You can talk about it.
I couldn't unmute, so I'm sorry. So first of all, like, I didn't put all this on here, but I have two of the Colorado principals, and so they came out here together, and then we ended up, they went to Jen's school as well, and then we went out there. And so what's nice is that, like, we're a group. It's not just like I'm working just with Libby. I also am, or just with Amanda. It's like I'm working with Libby and Amanda together, and then Jenna too, because Jenna's with Jen. So it's like we're our own little group here of all being able to network and share each other. Like an example is we were in Colorado, and Jenna asked for, an at-risk system and procedures handbook. And, we had developed that at my previous school. So I was able to give it to her, and I shared that like with Libby. I was like, and she's like, oh, can I have that? So, it's like you have this little cohort, you're all sharing the same things and they're all learning. So it's great.
Yeah, I love that. I love that group. And I'm glad that they got to come see you and you also were able to go see them. Again, if you haven't been able to do that, I want to highly encourage, reach out to your DSQ and their DSQ and get that set up. And we have that framework that we shared at our last meeting too for doing those shadow days. All right, feedback and encouragement. Just share a couple of these, but sharing out their best ideas and practices. And then somebody put living in two worlds, and that is coming up. That is our big topic for today. So yes, and then sending them flowers or notes of encouragement. Awesome. What about improved performance and knowledge?
So Emily, I can speak to that one specifically with the work that Scott and I have been engaged in. And so we set it up, and I thought on the onset it would be very valuable for him to come down to visit. He developed several pages of takeaways, and in terms of things that he saw from a cultural standpoint, a structural standpoint. So we talked a lot about high urgency routines, procedures, and expectations. And so prior to him coming down, he had a mock renewal visit.
Yes.
That didn't go very well. He called me about it. He was pretty down about it. He came down to visit. He went back and implemented a lot of the takeaways. And so when they came back, his mock renewal visit looked totally different. And it was gratifying for me to get a phone call from Matt Carlton saying, "Hey, Aaron, wow, he when we asked Scott about, hey, what turned things around here for you?" And he said, "My visit down there with Aaron." And so that was a testament of the work that him and I were engaged in elbow to elbow to improve that performance and improve his knowledge as well.
Yes, I know in speaking with him, he definitely felt much more confident and just in a better place than he was. So that's exactly what these partnerships are meant to do. So we definitely appreciate you for that. Definitely making that difference when it's really important, right? For his actual renewal that he had, I think was in December. So yes, thank you. And then we have induction to organizational leadership behaviors. And we have, what have you changed in your behaviors as the leader of the entire building? And also this one has been like a little bit tricky, I guess, in terms of like clarity. This is kind of like the NHA way and things that are going on in NHA and acclimating people to our way, I guess you could say. So we've had some principals that have had a lot of experience that have joined our organization, but it's not the same as being in a traditional public school or in other charter school networks. So thinking about some of those things, and even with our current population of deans that have become principals, they may not know particular things that are specific to the principal role. So that's what this one is about. And then finally, developing strategies to lead culture. So I think here we see some like shadowing and then sharing some best ideas and practices for, you know, certain things of the month, and then checking out ideas for staff engagement and building culture. So let's take a moment now to see what the new principal said about all of you. So I have snipped pictures of the anchor charts that they filled out. And as you're taking a peek at these anchor charts, there's going to be a few slides for you to look at here. I want you to use the chat box and what things on these anchor charts are resonating with you. Go ahead and just drop some of your thoughts in the chat. We'll just do about 1.5 minutes per slide here for you to read through everything.
So we're just putting in here the things that resonate with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, anything that resonates with you, or you can just unmute Ravana and share too, or a small but mighty group.
I just like that, you know, there were several checks about there's a safe space to ask questions. I'm glad that some of us or all of us were able to do that because in this position, you definitely need and even no matter how many years you've been a principal, you need a safe space to ask questions.
Right.
So many variables thrown at you. You know, we're always growing and learning together. So that stood out to me. Happy to see that.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that.
I think also reaffirming what is being said or done. You know, a lot of times as a new leader, you're doing the right work, but you're not really sure if you're doing the right work. And I think just having that affirmation that, yep, that's exactly what you should be doing. You got it. I think it's really, it's nice to see that.
Yes. Thank you. And Erin has shared shadow days, feedback, always on call, in a safe space. Let's take a look at opportunity to network or reflect, and feedback and encouragement. And here we've got some circled items too for reinforcement. So as you read through these, what things are resonating with you in these two particular areas? Go ahead, Sabrina.
I like the crucial conversation piece because I can just speak from when I was a newbie principal, you know, 10 years ago. That was always like hard, you know, how can I be direct with somebody without hurting their feelings or having them talk about me, because that was always my insecurities, right? Like, I don't want people not to like me. So how am I going to do this without that? And, you know, then my new principals are the same exact way. It's like, you know, you're always, when you're a new principal, you're always so worried about the perception or how things are delivered, or if you're going to have better or worse glint scores, or, you know, all those things. And honestly, as I don't know about all of you, but as time goes on, I don't worry about those things anymore. I just know I'm doing what's right by my school. And as long as you have a critical conversation with a heart and love behind it, you can have any conversation. So me and my two mentees have talked about this a lot, because they're like, how do I tell a staff member that their pants are too tight? Or
Right.
I mean, seriously, those are the weird conversations, right? That you're like, how do you even talk about this? So I really think that one resonates with me, because it's what you need a lot of help on as a first year or second year principal.
Yes. Yeah. And even so, with experience, you know, it's still like, oh my gosh, I have to talk with this person about that. Yeah, like their clothing, what you're wearing to work. Good point, Sabrina. Let's take a peek at these next two. Improve performance and knowledge, and then induction to organizational leadership behaviors. Go ahead, Aaron.
I would say the provided resources that they've created and used. There are a lot of things that he needed in terms of templates for leadership meetings. What should your board report look like? And I was able to share a lot of those documents with him. Some data dive agendas and things along those lines, so that he doesn't have to go out and create, right? These templates, they already exist. All you have to do is transform them to fit the needs of Windermere Park. I want to go back though, Emily, because one of the other pieces on the previous slide was that, encouraging conversations. Well, calls for encouragement. Well, in light of the tragedy at Michigan State, I reached out and had a conversation with him, and he's pretty down about it because that's right in his backyard. Families were not sending kids to school because here it is, Michigan State, it's closed, they don't have class, but Windermere Park is open for class, and he had counselors there available and that sort of thing. But he needed some encouragement as the leader. Sometimes we just kind of go along and I told him never flirt with the this perception. Never flirt with being perceived as perfect, right? And that's a tough one for a new leader. But I just reassured him that nobody's perfect. You have to be vulnerable. You have to have your moment where you can kind of reflect and not be so, because we're so strong and so we can't be viewed as being soft and being weak. But guess what? If we get cut, we bleed too. And so him and I had that conversation and really kind of broke that down, and it was really encouraging at the end. And then he texted me back and said, "Thanks so much. I was worse than you thought I was this morning." So yeah.
Oh, that's so great, Aaron. I'm glad you were able to do that. Yeah, just again, that encouragement and reaching out and just checking on your people. So important, especially in situations like that. Our last one was developing strategies to lead culture. And I think we've shared a lot of these already, but just sharing like your best practices. If anybody else wants to chime in, please do. But this one, all of you have great culture in your building. Yep, go ahead, Jen. Thank you. So continuing to share those best practices and what works well for your staff, I think are really helpful to our new principals. Again, this is their perception overall and not just what we think that they're thinking. These are things that they said about you, which was really incredible to see how you are making that positive and having that positive impact on our new principals. I also requested that each principal provide feedback on what's going well and areas where we could improve. So here are the 3 most common thoughts that kept coming up on the index cards. So one of the things was bringing an agenda or items to discuss at the meeting or call. I know we kind of wanted our mentees to lead these meetings, and sometimes they'll bring things and sometimes they're just trying to stay afloat, right? And so they kept saying, I don't know what I don't know. So if you have things that you're working on or coming up on your task management list that you can share with them, what are you keeping at the forefront? They want to know that as well. So sharing those ideas with them would be really helpful. The school shadow days are a favorite. Like, as you heard Sabrina and Jen kind of talking about that, they love those. And Aaron, I've heard about Scott's as well, you know. So if you can set that up and using that shadow guide that's in our new principal mentor folder, having that regular conversation is awesome. But when they get to spend time with you in person, you go to their school, they come to your school, nothing beats that FaceTime with you. And then finally, when mentor calls occur, they're very helpful. So some of our new principals haven't connected with their mentor in a while. And so as a reminder, the goal is just to meet at least, you know, once per month. Some people need more time, which is fine as well. So just please make sure that you're checking in on them and reaching out. And if you're having any difficulties, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So with all of that being said, what are some of your key takeaways about? There are three main thoughts here that kept showing up on my index cards. I'm looking over to the side because I had them right here. So what are your thoughts about those items? We don't have any thoughts because we're all in agreement. All right. So again, I would just like to reiterate the importance of, if they're kind of quiet and they're not saying a lot with you, which doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case for those of you who have joined us today, go ahead and just tell them what, you know, what you're working on, or, hey, have you thought about this? This is coming up. That would really be beneficial to all of them. So now it's time to get into some of our networking. So from the December survey, I noticed that several of you had an interest in supporting our new principals with procedures and systems and enhancing their climate and culture. And as we all know, Glint number 2 is coming up typically in May. So yesterday we met with the new principals to discuss hiring practices. And in January, we met to discuss the idea of living in 2 school years, which somebody did just put on our Jamboard. So these two topics are really connected, because when there's good procedures and systems in the school, then that positively impacts the climate and culture. These two go hand in hand. So during our time together with the new principals, they were given this living in 2 school years handout of things to think about. These are things that are coming up. As you know, we're still in our 22-23 school year, but we're getting ready for the 23-24 school year. So just when our new principals feel like, yes, I'm getting it, I'm getting into a groove, now you got to continue this year and start preparing for next year. So we've created a list on the school leadership development team of things that are coming up. But right now, Janelle's going to drop a link in the chat, and we would like for you to take a moment to review this list. And you have editing permission. I said, Janelle, do you know that anyone can edit this document? And she said, yes. I want them to put their ideas in there. So take a moment to look through this and add in anything that you think that we may have missed. So in addition to the living in 2 school years document, the new principals were also shown all of these lovely things, which I'm sure you all are very familiar with: the principal task management worksheet, the enrollment newsletter, Up Periscope, office task management worksheets, and the registrar O3 template. When you have all of these tasks and responsibilities, how do you manage it all? When we brought these items to the new principals, we found that this is an area that they really struggled with. They have all these documents and they're not quite sure where to begin and what's most important. So take a moment now to review these questions that are on the screen. And give me a thumbs up or your hand raised when you're ready. All right, how's everybody doing? Good? Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to place you into a couple of breakout rooms and offer you this time to network with one another. So while in this room, I would like you to think about these questions and some of the resources that you could use to support your new principals on these topics. So we'll take about 8 minutes. Janelle, is that okay in the rooms? Janelle has also dropped a link to this slide. So in case you're like, what were those questions again? You can utilize that as a resource. So go ahead and click on that link so that you have that available to you. And we'll see you back in about 8 minutes. Back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I need that song. All right, let's reflect on your conversations here. So how are you keeping on top of what you're responsible for? So who has something awesome they'd like to share with us, or an idea that they heard from another person about time, carving out the time? What's the best practice there that you could share with the group?
So I don't do this, but mine is not a best practice what I do. But I did share that my former principal, who's now my DSQ, she would hard schedule time in her calendar where she would call it like a meeting, but it would be for her to get certain tasks completed. And so she would like shut her blind, shut her door, and like, I don't know how often she did it, but she would have time that she would get work done. I do not do that. So that was the best practice I would share with others, because mine is just, I think me and Sabrina and Mark kind of all agreed, like we just work like crazy. And anytime we get a moment, we're completing tasks. It's not a best practice. So
No, it's not. Maybe you could see how you could start scheduling some meetings for yourself then, Jorvana, so that you
I
can
know I
get
can't shut my door and close my blinds unless I'm in a real meeting. It's something like it bothers me to think that like if I open, like I don't know, I like an open door. I'm not saying that she doesn't,
Yeah.
she did. Just for me,
Yeah.
I feel the guilt of like not having my door open, not allowing my staff to have access to me. And I think that builds a really strong culture that I have here at Keystone. They know they can come to me at any time.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really good at just getting things done at the last minute. So, I mean, not the last minute, but like with every minute that I have. So I don't share that as the best practice though.
Okay, yeah, don't share it. And it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty for closing your door to take care of the things that you need to take care of. Sometimes you have to take that time for yourself. So maybe you could start with just like once a week, trying for one meeting. Give yourself that grace. You're a hard worker. All right, what about organizational systems and organizing your brain around all of those and taking all of those worksheets? How do you help someone with that? What ideas do you have there for those systems?
So I'll jump in.
Okay, great.
Ira and I we were in a group, and one of the things that I started off talking about is the fact that your role as a principal is not necessarily to do everything. It's to make sure that everything gets done. And so
Right.
we were able to dive into this conversation about, okay, task management worksheets, which are monthly, right? Sometimes 2 or 3 months. The fact that the Periscope is a weekly piece, right? And a lot of you're going to see things on your task management worksheet that's also in Periscope, but Periscope giving you more frequent information. And how what I do is my dean of intervention, he mans that. I read them, but then he highlights, and in every leadership meeting, he highlights some key points from Periscope that we need to be very aware of that's coming down the pike, in terms of, flows and, mic hip and things that are up and coming. I keep a blown up task management list every month or every 2 or 3 months, or however we get them. Sometimes we get them in 2 months, sometimes we get them in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of my registrar, I have a very experienced registrar who's been around about 17 years. And so she mans that registrar 03 list and put the hide items on there that we need to discuss and talk through in our 03s. And so for me, it's not a matter of during the day spending a lot of time on those things, because I just believe in the power of presence. I'm like Giovanna, my door has to be open. I'm not in the office. I'm around in classrooms because I gotta keep my fingers on the pulse of instruction, because I am an instructional leader. Data dives, I want to see what they look like, what teachers are doing. I want to see teaching and learning happening. I want to see those key levers in play. And so typically for me, those are kind of before school and after school things where I kind of block out, an hour and 45 minutes to an hour each to kind of take on those tasks.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to, during the day, you can get locked up dealing with all these administrative things. And then you lose a sense of being the instructional leader in your building. You don't know what's happening in classrooms. You can't really confidently talk through an O3s with teachers, how they're working and coaching up certain teachers. And so those are some things that actually Scott and I talked about. And I told him, you don't have a plan right now. So adopt this plan, and then as you get your feet wet and you get more, more, tools in your tool kit and your tool belt, then you can start to make some adjustments and throw this out and then make things really fit.
Yes, I appreciate that. And you took your systems and delegation, which was the next area, right? And you kind of intertwine those together. And I think those are some great best practices that you could share with others to go through this. And also that impacts your time as well. So thank you for sharing. All right. And the last portion of our time together is just on the mentor learning track. Janelle, you have that link to drop in as well. So go ahead and take a peek at the mentor learning track. And again, this just shows you what our new principals have been working on, what our topics have been, and then some resources for you to use as well. So again, if you take a peek at March, I found this really great article. It's short, but there's some great questions for you to reflect on, and then thinking about your answers to those, following up with your practices and sharing those practices with our new principals of what you do well. Setting those firm boundaries, crafting that alone time. But so when you have a moment, head on into the mentor learning track, take a peek at that article and see how that can benefit you in your mentoring. And what's really exciting is March Principals Meeting is coming up March 14th and 15th. And so if you have not spent a lot of time with your new principal, you'll be able to see him or her there as well and to continue to develop that relationship. Normally at this time of our meeting, we get into a survey, but rather than getting into a survey for you, I would like for you to take a moment in your next mentoring call to complete a pulse check with our first year principals as we work to support them for the remainder of this year. And so these 3 questions, what additional support do you still need from me to feel more confident and comfortable in the principal role? What has been your biggest accomplishment in the principal role up to this point? And what has been your biggest challenge specific to the principal role? So no need to worry about jotting these down, because I am going to send you a Google link for a Google form survey. So you'll just pop that open when you're on your next call with your principal mentee, your new principal, and go ahead and complete that so we can gather that information. Any questions on that at all? It's a little bit different from what we typically have done. No questions? All right. So I launched you with this today. We all need someone who inspires us to do better than we know how, and that is by Anonymous. So thank you for being that inspiration to our new principals and for continuing to support them on their leadership journey. We could not do this without you. Your insight is truly valuable. And with that, we look forward to seeing you all at March Principals Meeting. I hope that you have a great rest of your day and an enjoyable weekend.